source for everything paranormal. Para-X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Abide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron. Now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, merry meet and welcome, everybody. Now, I was nosing around Amazon the other day, and I saw something that caught my eye, and it was Ancient Wisdom Scrolls by von Braschler. Now, those of you who listen to the shows, you might remember who Von is. He's a very prolific writer. We've talked about several of his books over the years, like Time Shifts and Mysterious Messages from Beyond, and even Confessions of a Reluctant Ghost Hunter. But Wisdom Scrolls were something new, so I asked him to come back and talk about them. And I'm really waiting to hear a lot more than I know already, because it sounds really cool. As usual, the chat room folks, you're welcome to share comments and ask questions. And if you're listening to the live show, you can do the same by coming over to paraxradionetwork.com and join in. That being said, Vaughn, hello, and thank you for piquing my curiosity to the point of tracking you down and dragging you over here to come to the show.
Well, hi, Marla. It's good to be with you. It's always fun to be on your show.
Oh, thanks. Well, I'm going to get right to the point because I'm really interested. I have so many questions around this. I pretty much know. You okay?
Oh, yeah, fine. That's right.
The headset, okay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I got my head on straight. Okay, good.
Oh, well, never admit to that because then people can criticize. But I pretty much know nothing about the scrolls other than the first 2, Past Lives and Lucid Dreaming, are the first 2 in a series.
Yeah. And
the first 2 will be out early next year, but those interested can pre-order them now at Amazon. Yeah. But on Amazon, I was kind of confused a little bit, which is not seldom happens. But on Amazon, the scrolls are referred to as book supplements. Now, would you like to explain the terminology?
Well, I don't think they quite knew how to deal with it. See, they're a little shorter than a book, and they're not a traditional book format. They're shorter than a book. They're like a condensed book. It's basically one really long sheet of paper. And boy, oh boy, did the publisher Schiffer ever have to look hard across the world to find a printer that could do one continuous long sheet of paper. And they finally found one. But it was not without problems, because you take what you get. And there's some funny stories there with at least the Past Lives issue. But, so I don't know, book supplement, they had to call it something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's not exactly like a book, but for all purposes, we could call it a book in scroll format, if you will. They're condensed books. They each one of them seeks to give you an overview of a subject, a historical perspective from different cultures around the world throughout all of time. And then it tries to bring it home as to what current thinking is, diverse thinking on the subject, and then kind of bring it home to you, to where it means something to you. Because I try to make all my books practical. I'm a journalist, but also I'm an occultist. I'm a pagan occultist, and I want people to know about I want people to know occult wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it worries me that we're just talking around the corner for a lot of people. And, and that's all well and good. I love to write about dreams. I think dreams are highly significant if you do proper dream work. In the study of past lives, I think it's highly significant. The next two that'll come out later in the year happen to be on energy healing and magical systems. And I think it's going to be really fun because, the magical systems, you can like draw a line through time and you can, okay, it's a big family tree and it goes in all different directions. But everybody's borrowed from everybody else. I mean, but I don't want to get ahead of the game because the first two are past lives and lucid dreams.
And so they are, the scrolls are kind of a tease as to a book that's coming out on the same topic, right?
No, but they're kind of an introduction to a topic.
Okay.
And I'm very liberal at making references to contemporary and classical books that have nothing to do with my publisher, and they don't even mind that. It's God bless them. I mean, really they come up with this idea, and it's just like, oh, I came up to them with an idea that said we have to introduce people to the ancient wisdom tradition on many levels. I said, because it's becoming just muddled, I mean, we had this thing called it's gone in all different directions. And now, now it's kind of like fragmented again. And we don't have serious occult students. We don't have serious occultists anymore. I don't think we even have serious magicians anymore. There's a few good witches out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And we don't have to hide anymore. But here's the thing. Pagan contributions are huge. The tradition of magicians through the years and high magic, huge. And this goes all the way back thousands of years. And so I've tried to bring it. If I say to people, this is like a long, long essay, it's not like a typical book that I write. It is. But it's telling a story, and I think it's done colorfully and I won't say tongue in cheek, but they're very readable. They're not dry, and every one will give you a firm, although brief, grounding in a particular topic. And then you could read further because we refer to other books you can read. And they're not my books and they're not Schiffer's books. They're just books. People need to learn.
Well, what surprised me was there was so much information because you sent me the PDF so I could see what was on the scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
But there is so much there. How long are the scrolls? I mean, seriously.
Okay. I've been told that they're 45 feet long. One continuous sheet. I haven't seen one, but I've talked to the art department and the marketing department over at Red Leaf, and a Red Feather. I'm sorry, Red Feather.
Yeah.
And they say, well, they're really long. I said, well, how long are they? Because when I first envisioned it, the scrolls were going to be a foot wide, and then as long as necessary.
Wow.
And then we settled on a certain length, so they'll all be roughly the same length. 15,000 words.
Oh.
So they said, what could you do in 15,000 words? And I said, I could write you either a short book that's really condensed, or I can write you a really long magazine article. He said, can you do both? And I said, yeah. So I've tried to write them as though they were magazine articles in any popular magazine, but they're really like a condensed book.
Well, even when I opened up the PDF, I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and I was so surprised that, there were so many different topics. I mean, there's this little chunk of this and a chunk of that and a chunk of that, and it made a whole lot of sense, but I just, wow.
Kind of like going to a Chinese restaurant, a buffet, and you take a spoon of this and a spoon of that and a spoon of that. And I tried to show how they kind of all link together. Now, I think, we could only find one printer, apparently, that could do it. Originally, we thought we'd do them, print them in India. And I thought, well, that's good. They ended up, the only place we could find a print was in China. And so I said, well, that's interesting. They said, it's, and in the art department, they said, hey, it's put on like really high standards of how these things look. Because I just wanted a bunch of sheets of paper rolled up and put into a plastic tube that was a foot long.
Or a toilet roll, right?
Yeah, and Vaughn's description to the marketing and art department was the tubes have to be approximately 1 1/4 inch wide to hold 5 long sheets of paper. Well, my estimates were way off. It's going to take like the equivalent of 45 sheets of paper, but it's all going to be printed on one side. Now, the scrolls are going to look as though they were printed in old times. They're kind of like silvery type, from what I could tell, or gold type, and they're ornate. And you just keep scrolling down and scrolling down and scrolling down. You just keep pulling it out. It's all one sheet of paper. And when we got to and they're really pretty. In the case of the printer, we were on press with Past Lives, and the phone rings, and I'm getting calls from different editors over at Schiffer, at Red Feather, and they're saying, well, there's a problem. And they said, you've named the Dalai Lama. I said, everybody knows the name of the Dalai Lama. That's one of the stories I tell. And they said, well, but it's the naming of the Dalai Lama. I said, well, everybody knows how they name the Dalai Lama. I mean, briefly for your listeners, if they don't know, the Dalai Lama each time, and we're on like the 14th one, the Tibetan Dalai Lama, is supposedly the reincarnation of the last Dalai Lama. And so the high lamas of Tibet, they go door to door to door to door, and they interview different children, and they show them things, and they ask them stories, and they ask them to talk. And the one that seems to totally understand the life and views of the last Dalai Lama, down to great details, like what was your mother's name, and where did you go to school, and what was, who are your friends? I mean, the one who has this complete recall of the past Dalai Lama is thought to be then the reincarnation, and then he's chosen as the new Dalai Lama. Well, they said that we couldn't tell that. And so I kept going over it with different people, saying, nowhere do I name the Dalai Lama. I just describe the selection process. And they said, well, it's very political. You cannot. I decided that any time I'm going to talk about the past life scroll, I'm going to tell the story because they took it out. They said that according to a Chinese communist law, you cannot talk about Tibetan Buddhism or the Dalai Lama. Those are forbidden subjects. So they said that if we print this, we could print it and ship it to you, but then the government would shut down our printing plant. You'd have to find a new printer. Wow. And so I said, well, you can take out this paragraph, this paragraph. They said, we have to take out 4 paragraphs. And I said, okay. So it's just basically the one that says, oh, here's proof of past lives. When the Dalai Lama dies, they go around door to door until somebody remembers a previous life as the Dalai Lama. There's proof. So it's just one of the many stories that tell about how people believe in past lives.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, that's a really good story. I can just see it, that they're running around at Red Feather going, no, we can't do this.
Yeah, they said, whoa, this would be very, very bad. And I said, I don't see the problem. They said, the problem is we'll never get our scrolls out of the printing plant. And if we do, the printer is closed down. I said, well, take out those fair. It doesn't really change the story. And I'm gonna talk about it endlessly anywhere I talk about the scroll.
I think you're doing just the right thing in that. I want to say that so far 2 people in the chat room have pre-ordered it, just from what you were saying so far.
Oh no, I'm sorry. There's no refunds.
No. I mean, comments like "love it," "it's quite unique," And
I understand that there's like a pre-pub discount if you order it now. I'm not suggesting that people run out and buy it, but if you do buy it before it comes out, you save like $4 or something.
Oh, really? Wow.
Something like that. I don't know. It's
Well,
something.
That's good to know. I didn't see it. I knew they were there for pre-order, but I didn't.
$6 off. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that. Well, thanks for throwing that in because it was necessary. I mean, it's very helpful too. But you know what? I really like the fact that when we unravel the scroll, I mean, here in the 21st century, we are getting the information in the fashion that our ancients got it. And I think that's a very cool thing about these things too.
Well, and I have to commend the publication director that you and I both work for at Red Feather, because I came to them with an idea of doing little booklets that would be an intro booklet on a subject. And he said, I understand why you want to have little short books because people, and these books would like open people's minds to a subject. He says, but the idea is to get away from books. And I said, yeah, that was the real idea behind my thought. And he says, you know what? We're going to go all the way back to scrolls. And I just about dropped the phone. I thought, and then I thought, oh my gosh, is it? Are we coming to the dark times now? And all hidden occult wisdom will be buried in the earth again. This has happened before,
Yeah.
And we don't have the Alexandrian library, but we have all those Coptic books. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have the Nag Hammadi library. Many examples of scrolls that were buried in containers under the ground or in caves. And I like that idea. If you want to put it underneath your school when they lay the bricks, that's good too.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Time capsule kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's talk a little bit, about the two topics that these are coming out. But first, there's going to be how many scrolls? I think. So
I think there'll be a dozen.
Wow.
He's talked to me about you can write a dozen, right? And I said, sure. I said, but I do have a life. And he said, oh, forget that. So I said, okay. I said, I like the way you think. And he says, are we working you too hard? I said, no, work me hard because, I think this is important. I mean, it's like, I really like the project. And there is a deadline factor to all of this because we're starting from scratch with the series.
Right.
So I'm working on scroll. I just finished scroll 5. That was on amulets and talismans. And of course I included charms and spells. And so then the one I'm working on now is elementals and nature spirits.
Wow.
So I get into elemental magic, which is really fun, right? So, So then, then I'll write 2 more later in the year.
So how far apart would they be published?
The ideal is to come out with 2 in the spring and 2 in the fall.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so by next fall, I don't think they'll do it that fast, but theoretically, in 2 years, you'll have the first 8. And then in probably 3 years from now, you'll have a dozen. And I've told him, I said, I think if this works the way you think, you're going to have to, it's going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be a series. It's not the von Braschler series. It's the Ancient Wisdom series. And you're going to have to think of who's going to do it next, I'll nominate you, Marla. Marla, So Marla, I have to admit, it wrote a wonderful foreword to my forthcoming book. Oh, I mean, it's way down the line, but it's on programming lucid dreams. So you're kind of like my sister spirit,
Thank you.
Don't know if you know that, but I think that I think that this is maybe something that might work, and they're awfully cute. They're awfully cute. I just want to carry one around and play with them. So I also thought of how people used to carry around little books with them, little paperbacks,
Yeah.
But people don't like, most people don't anymore. So those little tiny like Avon and Dell books that are pocket books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mass market pocket books. Well, these are going to be really small,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm going to have to twist when you get your first sample, I'm going to twist Chris's arm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be nice. Then I could start to have one. And then at the end, when you have all of them, there should be like this little case or cabinet to put them in,
yeah, I'm dying to figure out what the art department there is going to do with a case, because my original idea was that there would be a series of these sort of things, and then they'd be in some kind of a case that you might see in a bookstore.
Mm-hmm. And Schiffer's really good about boxes of any kind, so I bet they'll do good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would really look good on somebody's library shelf, this whole case of scrolls.
Yeah.
All right, I can't wait. So I'm gonna settle down, and let's talk a little bit about past lives. From what I was looking through and everything. Yeah. I mean, you talk about people having flashes of insight into, other identities and places and times, and lots of times it's chalked up into something that somebody has read or seen on TV, something in your conscience. But I'll take it a step further, because some of those places that we see on TV or movies aren't just really pretty pictures. In some cases, just seeing a place elicits a strong emotional response.
Yeah.
And
we have past life memories.
Yeah, and depending on what that past life was all about, we can react in a number of ways. For example, a good friend of mine who's passed away a long time ago, but the late psychic Kenny Kingston, once told me that he could never set foot in Florence, Italy, ever in this life, because he was murdered there in a previous life. And so, whether we believe it or not, I mean, would you say that our stored memories of past lives affect our everyday lives in various ways now?
Yeah, I do. And here's the thing, it's like we have our memories. And if they're just a memory of what's in your stored, your brain of events in this lifetime, well, that's one thing, right? You say, well, okay, I might have seen a photograph of something, or I might have had a glimpse of this, or somebody told me this, or but then if it's like a deep memory, like, okay, here's the thing. You will have like lucid moments where we have like a flashback, of a past life. It would be, often we call that like a vision, or you'd say, I had a glimpse into the past, or sometimes we have a deja vu moment, like, oh my gosh, I'm there, and then I'm here. Or you just have this daydream where you're remembering. Mm-hmm. You're remembering a past life. I do it all the time. I say, oh my gosh, it's nothing like this has happened in this life, but I must have had more fun in that life.
Yeah, we can relate to things that we've never experienced sometimes.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's all kinds of experiences like that. So we'll have profound dreams of the past. We'll have flashbacks. We'll have deja vu moments. And this happens to a lot of people, but we tend to dismiss them, unfortunately. Many of these magical moments we have are the inner spirit within us, our higher consciousness. It's like calling to us, like open me up, awaken to your true inner self. Mm-hmm. And most people don't recognize that inner person. That is your spirit. That is your eternal conscious spirit, and it knows all this. It's been there, it knows the past. It knows everything that you came in this life to do. It knows where you should be going and where you're going next. It has all the answers. Look within.
Yeah, and you were talking about, how people get flashes like daydreams and visions and deep meditation, but you also talk about, near-death experiences that we kind of, it's a strange thing, but when you hear of somebody dying in certain ways that you have no clue of, you can relate to what you're hearing. It's like what they're saying, but
Yeah.
there shouldn't be any reason that we do know consciously.
Absolutely. Dr. Raymond Moody,
Yeah.
he's famous for having studied near-death experiences, but the more he studied NDEs, the more he became convinced by the stories he heard that we do live these past lives. We do have memories of what we commonly would call an earlier incarnation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The whole thing is really fascinating about us being able to do that. I mean, haven't you? I mean, I have, but haven't you watched something on TV and it was from a different country, and you see stuff that you've never seen before, and your eyes kind of get a little teary-eyed because you feel like you've been there, there, or you should be. I mean, it's really weird, and I think a lot of people when that happens think that they may be going a little bit crazy. Well, look, I looked at this thing of the, Westminster Abbey and I'm crying. Why am I crying? I've never even been there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a couple of time periods that I'm really drawn to, and I have to admit that I've lived several lives. I think we all have. Mm-hmm. And if I go to any kind of an exhibit, art exhibit or museum, and I see artifacts or art from the Mesopotamian era. Wow. I know exactly how it went down with me there, and I was intimately involved, and there's other times too. I'm drawn to 17th century Wales, Mm-hmm. I actually made a trip there, and I found that I could walk the ground and know where things were,
Nice.
And it's well, that's all well and good, but, that life is over. I mean, that's still you, but, mm-hmm. but I mean, you kind of have to let go and admit that we're eternal souls.
Yeah, and they say we have the same DNA from life to life, so why wouldn't we have some of the same memories just, tucked away safely?
Yeah, I suppose that's true. That's true. And I think there's a part inside you, your spirit, if you will, your consciousness, your higher consciousness, that knows all of this, knows all of your past lives, mm-hmm. and knows how it got you here. And the trick for every one of us is to awaken to why we're here and how it fits. Because this is a long, long journey we're on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, never ending. But, the weird part of it is that we never remember. Well,
I know.
Some people get past life regressions, though.
So that brings up the story, doesn't it, of Plato and a priori knowledge. It was known thousands of years ago by the ancient Greeks that people were born with prior knowledge. How mm-hmm. could that be? How could that be? If we lived just a few decades and then we're gone and then we're worm dust and that's that. Why would we have all this previous knowledge?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and lots of people do. There's a quick question from the chat room because we're going to have to go to break real quick.
Okay.
But she wants to know, do our interests indicate past lives?
Oh, gosh, I would think so. I mean, because that's who you are. That's your real identity. It's your energy signature, And I believe in all the correspondences, of course. Mm-hmm. I believe that, your birth sign, your sun sign, the ray that you were born with, signifies who you are. Mm-hmm. The colors that you're drawn to, the sign that you identify with in terms of earth element, earth, air, fire, water, is all who you are. That's mm-hmm. who you are. You're in that camp. I mean, mm-hmm. you can play with the people that work with the water element, but if you're an air element, then you're going to have a different orientation. Life after life, because mm-hmm. I think this is your energy signature of who you are.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to need to take a quick break. So when we return, we've got another question from the chat room, and we'll be talking about the second scroll, the Lucid Dreaming. So everybody, we'll be back in a couple of minutes, which gives you just about enough time for a quick daydream.
Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away. If you end up with webbed feet,
Remember, you've been warned.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What Are You Afraid of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
Missed an episode of Stirring the Cauldron? Then be sure to check out marlabrooks.com and check out the archive. And while you're there, check out Marla's weekly Witches Oracle card reading. Explore the site to find many great resources, such as information on tarot, oracle readings, metaphysical consultations, and links to all of Marla's books. That's marlabrooks.com. Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And my guest tonight is Von Braschler, and we're talking about his soon-to-be-released Ancient Wisdom Scrolls. And everybody's now champing at the bit, me too. But we have a question from the chat room. Would you say that we sometimes evoke daydreams of past lives to cope with this life or completion of those past lives?
Yeah, the continuation dreams. And we induce them because here's the way I think it works. Most people have a sudden surprise lucid dream. And they say, oh my gosh, I had a lucid dream. I wasn't ready for that at all. But I think that what happens is your inner spirit or your consciousness inside you decides, listen, we have to address this problem. You're not getting anywhere. We're going to show you something, and it's going to be insightful, and revealing, and you're going to see it, and it's all for you. These are dreams of insight and awareness, and our inner spirit, when it calls for a dream, is all about awareness and learning. So I think that's exactly what happens. I think we're called upon. So I do touch on this a little bit, how to set up your own lucid dreams. And it would be really nice to be able to set up your lucid dreams and program them to have the kind of dreams that you think you want. But really, the part of you that really knows what you need to see and learn and where you need to go in your dreams is your inner spirit. It just takes charge. These aren't things that are foremost in your memory. These aren't part of your concerns emotionally, your mental distress. This is something that your inner spirit says, look, I'm going to take charge here. I'm the referee. And I decided that you need to learn this. It's kind of like the way people have, what do we call them, synchronistic moments. Mm-hmm. You'll see things, and you say, wow, I keep seeing the same thing over and over. It's like karma wants me to know this, and it'll keep pushing my face in it until I see it. Yeah.
And the universe does that, whether it's karma or something, because even when we're doing card readings, the same card will come up, or if you're doing a spread, the same type of card will come up over and over and over again. You could shuffle the deck, you could do 52 pickup, they're all going to keep doing that. And it's because I always say that they think we're not smart enough to catch on, so they're going to beat it in our brains. But, I
got the same card reading 3 times in a row when I was in Minneapolis trying to figure out if I should go east to work for a publisher. And I said, well, what do the cards say? And I read it and I said, I'll do it again. Same thing. Do it again. Same thing. I said, okay, I get it. Put the cards away, pack the suitcase.
Yeah, they're not subtle, you know. I mean, they aren't. All right, so we're talking about the second scroll now, which is the past life. The lucid dreaming. And it's a really interesting topic. I mean, you talk about the history of dreams alone. Just that little segment is really, really interesting. I mean, you go back from Babylonian times. You talk about the different times and cultures and religious and spiritual dreaming. Where we go in our dreams, what type of dreams. It's rather amazing, again, to get all that information in one scroll, even if it's 45 feet long.
I know, 45 feet long. Well, this is what I found out when I started doing this. It's like, and these were so fun to write, you know. And so I said, how far back can we go and study dreams? You know, serious use of dream work. And back to Babylonia, back to ancient Sumer, the first civilization, back to Gilgamesh. We're talking like 3000 BC or earlier, you know. So these people, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, the Mesopotamians, to the Egyptians, to the Greeks, to the Romans, they really believed in the power of dream and learning from our dreams. Not just that they're entertaining. Oh, no. No, it's not, they don't just sit around and talk about how entertaining and exciting the dream was. They talk about how important and revealing and insightful and instructive the dreams were. People would plan their life destinies based on the outcome of these dreams. And furthermore, I found out that the ancients believed so strongly in dream work of this sort, serious lucid dream work, that they would have like dream temples, and they would have attendants where you would go, and they would like a spa, they would have you lie down, and then they would have you get into an induced dream. They would help you get into an induced lucid dream. So I kept reading about all these induced dreams that the ancients would have. They seriously tried to, and there were different views of what this was. Many of the ancients thought that these were divine revelations. That's a very common view, and it's current even today. And then others felt that it was like it was your inner consciousness speaking to you, that everything revealed in such a dream came from your higher self, which sounds almost kind of modern, doesn't it? Yeah. So
everything old is new again.
Yeah. So I mean, and both could be true. If you look at your higher self as being your own angel, as the God within you, that sort of concept. So you get into forward like Carl Jung, and you look at Freud and what they believed in dreams, and then you look at dream research, and nobody does serious research on lucid dreams. I'm sorry, but this is what we need to study. You can go back thousands of years, and they knew this was the important thing to study. It wasn't like why you have nightmares or why children have night sweats. That's not what we need to study. That's what they study. They study REMs. You don't have REMs in lucid dreaming. That's different. Those are common dreams of a restless night.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about that because, not exactly, but there are all sorts of dreams, okay? There are, regular mundane dreams. There is very profound dreams. What sets that apart from lucid dreams, the regular dreams?
Yeah, so in a regular dream, a common dream, it's like you go to sleep, and the body is kind of like getting numb and goes to sleep, but your mind doesn't totally go to sleep. It's still kind of semi-aware. I run into all these people in workshops. They say, well, when I meditate, I'm not totally meditating. Well, this is what happens. See, this is the downside. It's like your brain doesn't shut off. And it's like when the brain doesn't shut off, you have this endless mind loop of like worries about what happened yesterday or concerns about what happens tomorrow, unresolved problems, or questions you cannot resolve, even during the day when you're applying your best analytical thinking to it. You can't resolve these issues, these personal problems you have. So you go to sleep, and you're restless, and your mind still keeps playing away at it. It keeps grinding away at it, grinding away. Only now you're kind of on half light, right? Because your brain is like half asleep, half awake, and you're having these kind of loopy dreams, And this is where you're naked and you're running backwards and all this thing, and people are laughing, and it's like these are like psychological nightmares, So we have a lot of those dreams, And then we have recurring dreams, which are often nightmarish. I mean, I'll tell you honestly, when I got serious into dream work, and I understood finally how I could program lucid dreams that would be insightful and helpful, I decided that I was going to go back and go over my recurring nightmarish dreams. I was going to deal with my darkest moments that I would continue to haunt me night after night in what we would commonly call a common dream. And what I did was I programmed to go into that dream in a lucid state and resolve it. Wow, did it help?
Okay, so let's talk about how to program lucid dreams, what they entail, how can you do it? I mean, people probably, like when you and I were talking a while back, and I was, talking about lucid dreams, and I told you that the one dream I had, I woke up, and I don't remember my dreams always, and I woke up, and the cat was right next to me, and I looked at the cat, and I said, that was no normal dream. Yeah. And I mean, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And I didn't know, what lucid dreams were or whatever, but the fact that you can kind of program and make them happen, tell us how.
Well, I mean, 3 steps: meditation, serious meditation; 2, visualization; and then 3, manifestation. So to amplify that, you put yourself to sleep, consciously put yourself to sleep, and I do it. I don't leave it to question. I do it like self-hypnosis. Start with my feet, legs, torso, arms, chest, head, completely to sleep. Then I put my mind to sleep. Then I begin deep breathing. Now, this sounds to people like meditation. Okay, it's also like an induced trance that a shamanic dreamer would have in dreamwalkers. They go into a trance, like Edgar Cayce goes into a trance, and so you set up a trance, and then but what you do is when you get to that place, you go to that deep space deep within you, where spirit resides, and you awaken to your higher spirituality, your higher consciousness, and then your mind you put your mind to sleep. So you're not going to have any thoughts. Here's the rule. No thoughts, no words, no songs, no sounds, nothing. Just turn it off. Just completely pull the plug. And then now there's just your inner awareness. Now you're really awake. You have awakened the inner dreamer, right? So then you begin to see a screen inside you, like a blank screen, and then you begin to visualize on that screen pictures, and this is where your inner consciousness can do all the work. It'll draw or paint the picture of what you want to see, what you want to learn, where you want to go. So you kind of go into it with you say, okay, I'm going to put myself to sleep, and this is what I'm going to do. I want to have certain dreams that will allow me to learn about this, or go to this place, or explore this facet of my life, or my past lives, or my future lives. And then when you really succumb to the dream state, the lucid dream state, then your inner awareness says, okay, now I'm going to draw a picture. and it begins to visualize for you. See, what I'm saying is that spirit knows the way, and let spirit guide you. And then, but you have to have a prompt, like a post-hypnotic suggestion that when you get to this state, your inner self is going to begin visualizing for you what you want to do and what you want to see. Now that becomes a perfect roadmap to where you're going to go, which is the manifestation. And so then you project yourself out as a conscious thought form. You're projecting your consciousness. In other words, you're going to have an out-of-body experience where your conscious energy leaves your body. Oh, don't worry, you're resting safely in your bed or on a sofa or wherever you choose to do this, because this can be done in a waking dream, or it can be done to set up when you go to sleep at night. So you program specifically what you want to learn, where you want to go, and what you want to see, and then you visualize it, and then you manifest it, you project it out. So then this is all part of the post-hypnotic suggestion. So I realized that I couldn't do this in this book alone. I mentioned it. So the book that Marla was kind enough to write the foreword for is Programming Lucid Dreams. And that's going to come out in like a year or so. And it's like we really lay it down, I think we really lay it down how to set this up. Because you got to really do it by the numbers. You can't fudge on this. You really need to program it. You really need to get into a dream state, Now, you think how the ancients would have dream temples, and they would do dream work. They were serious about this. They would set up the conditions, even with an attendant, where a person would actually have an insightful out-of-body dream of great meaning, anytime, anywhere, beyond space and time. It makes no difference. And they would learn their dreams. These were prophetic dreams, or they would go back in time and learn about themselves. They would learn things that they could never have learned otherwise. So dream work can be extremely helpful, and I think that people can actually begin to induce and program their own dreams.
That's amazing, but and talk about interpreting. I mean, lots of people remember their dreams. Some people, more than most, just say, well, I never wake up. I mean, when I wake up, I just have a thing in my brain and it's gone.
Yeah.
But a lot of people try and interpret the symbolism in their dreams. So I guess, everyday mundane dreams can be interpreted, but I don't think lucid dreams, I mean, they're different. And here's the question that you put in the thing. When is a dream more than a simple dream?
Yeah, when is a dream more than a simple dream? So that's exactly there's the rub, because these are not simple dreams. These are really powerful images. I mean, you think of the Wizard of Oz. How does it end? Dorothy wakes up in her bed. This is all a lucid dream. You look at Scrooge. The Dickens story of A Christmas Carol. Mm-hmm. That's all a dream. These are powerful dreams that change people's lives. They show them things. They go places. They encounter things. This is a power dream. A power dream where you go and leave the body. You can fly and go through space and time and learn. And no one can interpret that dream but you. That's very individualistic. That is simply your dream. It's very subjective. So I know that a lot of people love dream dictionaries, and we've had them since the ancient Rome. They had a dream dictionary, and it's like, oh, I dreamed about a snake and this is what it means. Or Freud would say, oh, you dreamed about a cigar, did you? Yeah. I always but Clinton showed a better use, right? So here's the thing. You can only do this yourself. It only has meaning to you. So what I think is important is to come back from these lucid dreams and don't just bounce up and say, oh, I got to write it all down or I have to remember it. No, you go into a light introspective meditation where you're just kind of like reliving it, feeling it. Let it just envelop you. And it just fills your body. And just let it run through you. Let it run through you and feel it and own the dream. And then it becomes part of you. You've internalized the dream. And then you are the dream. And then when you think you've got it, then you get up and you can write it down. But don't do it before, because your analytical mind can't begin to process where you've gone and what you've seen. It will say, oh, that's crazy.
Mm. For me, it was one of those things that you every detail is stuck in your head.
Yeah.
You will never forget it, and you will feel really different than when you wake up and say, oh, look, I was flying around, the neighborhood or whatever. It has an effect on your whole body.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, you want to shake your head at first if you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is off the subject, but cats dream a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Cats dream a lot. They spend more time in what we'd call lucid dreams than anybody. They slip in and slip out all the time,
Yep.
and they're really magical beings. And I tell you, I think about all the cats I've had and how important they were in my life and all that they meant to me. And they come to me in my dreams, and these are very lucid dreams. Mm-hmm. And they come to me and they gather, and they'll always explain to me who called the meeting. It would be one of the cats. They say, well, this time, Mr. Hippocrates called the meeting. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, thank you, Hippocrates. And he said, that's fine, no problem. Mm-hmm. And then they'll all come over and they'll touch noses with me, and then they'll look at me and they'll say, we're good. It's like, how about you? I say, well, not always good.
Well, that's what Dinah Roseberry from Schiffer would always call. I mean, she would go into this thing and she would see everybody's pets that had passed away.
Yeah.
And she'd say, well, they're all here now, and she always used to get mad at me because it was a cockatiel, Bentley, and he was very, he was aggressive. To say the least, And so she'll say, you know what? She says, here he is with the horse and the whatever she has, and there's Bentley just strutting his stuff back and forth in front of everybody, And so, this is what you just said is other people are thinking the same way and doing the same thing. But it's just really funny. One more thing before we have to really go that we can touch on briefly is how do lucid dreams compare to astral travel?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so it's like astral travel, except that when you astral travel is kind of like, well, it's kind of like remote viewing. I mean, your consciousness is going somewhere. And you can go virtually anywhere in an astral sense, mm-hmm. but it's very limited. Most people think of astral travel, I suppose, as being like astral projection of your mm-hmm. consciousness, and so it would be like on one plane of reality, namely the astral or emotional plane, which is great. It's an etheric plane; it's really cool, but it's like. It's not everything. So mm-hmm. what I lobby for here is taking more of you when you go. That when you go like this, when you leave your body in this sense, and you dream travel anywhere in space and time, you take not only your astral body, but you take your mental body. You take your causal body, your Buddhic body, your divine essence, if you will. You take everything except your physical body. Your mm-hmm. physical body stays here. Mm-hmm. So throughout time, we've often heard of people like double gangers, or we've seen mm-hmm. like Maya Rupa body in the Hindu sense. So you'd see like a person who seems to be somewhere. I mean, Castaneda wrote about that, didn't he? Is that mm-hmm. that they would be, two places at once. But the other body would be slightly different, a little more gross. I mean, I don't mean in a negative way, but it would be not as physically defined. So you're looking at an astral body that's all souped up. It's got, because our consciousness, our conscious energy exists on all planes of our existence, all of our subtle bodies. That it exists, on every level of our multiple energy body. So take all of it with you. So if you want to go to the Akashic plane, the Akashic records, I maintain that you probably want to go to the causal plane. We call it what you will, but it's a plane where there's the creation, intuition, and a becomingness about it. It's a place of creation of if you want thought, action, deed. It is like you think it, and then it is. It is a causation. So the Akashic record, nobody's found it in Florida. Even Ponce de Leon never found it in Florida. So where is the Akashic record? It's not hidden in the Sierra Madres. Where is it? It's on another plane. So we can go to all these planes, but every plane is different. So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, something like this, we should devote a whole hour to, because there's so much to talk about in lucid dreams and stuff. And so, every so often, especially when the scrolls are coming out, you could just say, hey, let's talk about this or that. And then, because even an hour probably is too short to get all the things out that we want to get out. So I'm just saying, we can.
I love it. The first scrolls come out in February, so I'd love to talk about this.
Yes, and we shall. I mean, you know where to find me, and I know where to find you, so we're good there.
Great.
But we've got to get going, so let's roll up the scroll for tonight. But why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and information on you and your books and all that good stuff?
Hard to find me. I live on a little island in the middle of nowhere. But
I am so jealous. Anyway, go on.
But you can find the books on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble online, or your bookstore has it or can order it. It's from Schiffer Books, and these are going to be available everywhere. And I always list where I'm going to be and what I'm going to do on my author page on Amazon. So I figure, go there. Or you can join me on Facebook, facebook.com/vbraschler. So if you don't mind seeing a lot of pictures of my birds and cats,
I love it.
I will occasionally talk about things like lucid dreams.
Yeah, well, and you have a lot of critters, the chipmunks and the deer, and
the deer.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm drooling, but that's okay. I'll be happy for you. I'll just sit here in the city. What can I say?
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for popping in. We will get back to you soon, and you'll be back. And thanks everybody for listening in as well. And until next time, everybody, blessed be. And merry meet again. Good night.
This has been another edition of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Be sure to tune in next week at the same time for another great guest and more fun. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2009.
You have been listening to the Para X Radio Network.